and then I fortunately escaped to print, and I'm thrilled with that. And now, of course, I have a podcast too, which no one's heard of yet, but that's all right. I'll deal with it. And certainly not in Jim's category. And a website, and jeepers, what a surprise. So anyway,
but you have a table. Hopefully, you'll be there at some point in the weekend that you might, if you want to.
Yes, I have not
program you a lot.
I have not put my butt in the seat at my table yet.
But if you want a business card,
I've been here since yeah.
Oh yeah. What's the name of the podcast?
Richard J. Shellback's Monster Kid Central.
Just rolls right off the tongue.
Well, sure, if you're Richard J. Shellback. Absolutely.
And I'm Ted Acraft. I gab a lot, and I work at a TV station, and I've dabbled in writing, and I do a little on-air segment that I can talk about pretty much anything I want to at the time. So in 1975, what's interesting is, of course, a lot of stuff going on about Jaws. That little film, and even Sight and Sound. I love this magazine. We really don't have a decent film magazine anymore in America. But Sight and Sound, the BF, British Film Institute, is an arm of that. And they did a whole issue devoted to 1975. And one reason they did it because they did Jaws and Spielberg, they don't sell different copies. But if you're familiar with Sight and Sound, they do every decade they do a survey. They survey all directors and critics and dignitaries, whatever, and come up with a survey of the best films of all time. And it's gotten now, like everything in this world, in this day and age, lists and surveys and everything are getting a lot of attention. So it's got track. I mean, the Golden Globes are now a legit award show. It used to be something that you didn't get awards. So
be nice.
So anyway, what's interesting about the deal with the 1975 subject matter is, Citizen Kane pretty much always dominated the survey, and they did it every 10 years. And then Vertigo knocked it off 2 surveys ago, and that was a big deal. But then even more, and also we're in a different era, I don't want to go into politics here, but more inclusivity, more woke. You want to call it woke, you want to call it PC, more eyes wide open, and more. Hey, wait a minute! It's just a bunch of old white guys doing movies. There's a lot of things going on out there. So the number one movie, and it was pretty. It calls the Stirbucks as cinephiles. If I can call myself that. I don't even know, I can't even now pronounce the name, but a French film, Jenny Delman, 23 Quadou Commerce, 1080 Bruxelles. That's the title. That was number one. And it's and that's a 1975 film.
Well, that rolls off the tongue.
So yeah,
I was going to say.
And we're not, maybe it's probably worthy to talk about, but we're not going to talk about it here. I don't think we got too much other fun stuff to talk about.
You have an English translation?
Yeah, it's on Criterion. It's a Criterion.
No, I thought about the title. You have an English translation?
No, it's just a pronunciation. Maybe the Google has it. The pronunciation. So anyway, 75. I'm going to rattle off first. I'm going to start out with the top box office draws, and then I'm going to hand it over to let these guys start yammering on about it. But number one, Jaws. A Big Wheel of the Cuckoo's Nest. Shampoo. Dog Day Afternoon. Return to Pink Panther. 3 Days of the Condor. The Rocky Horror Picture Show. Funny Lady. The Other Side of the Mountain. And Tommy. I think I dated Tommy. That was interesting. Underrated film.
Did you ever see her again?
No, actually, I never did go out with her. I probably scared her off. Figured that on our first day.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that's what's in the air. Those films are in the air. I told Richard, I go, he did the 64 panel last year. Please just take a horror, science fiction, fantasy, and go with it. And so, you got a list, or, I don't know how you want, what, okay. Oh,
This time I actually did.
Ooh, you're getting modern,
Oh,
you're
I
using your
know.
phone. I still use paper.
Yeah, and until it goes black, and then I'm gonna sit there and go, I'm gonna need a half hour. And I'm not.
It's 75 a good year for it.
Yeah, it's surprisingly, but you were mentioning before, the prequel, that it's very much the year before that shapes the year that you're in. And that's why I wore the Texas Chainsaw Massacre shirt, because that changed the scenery of pretty much anything low budget. Gave the green light to people who might not have gotten the green light before. So,
What do you, I don't want to put you on the spot, but
No.
do you know when the year of the 74 year release, was it summer, spring, fall?
I know it was in Connecticut. Watching from the hood of my Ambassador station wagon outside of the drive-in, it was hotter than hell. So I'm going to go.
Okay.
It was a summer release, but it wasn't until '75. Jaws was the first summer blockbuster.
Oh,
What we think of there, but I mean, it did well. It made money.
Well, yeah, and what,
certainly
But
did.
it was definitely, because I remember we were on, I was in college, and I just finished my sophomore year, and I remember seeing it, I saw it at the drive-ins that
And it was
summer.
horror
I was on
fans,
summer
dirty
break.
little
and it was pretty much, it was pretty much a straight drive-in.
No, it was straight up, it did not play the legitimate
Well,
thing.
yeah, I mean, maybe some town, somewhere, maybe.
But this was such a great, I love the '70s, and especially from the mid-'70s, about '73 on, because this is, it's probably called this by other film people, but the golden age of independent.
Absolutely.
You would have these, it was the day of the multiplexes. I was living in Raleigh, North Carolina at the time, and you didn't have a theater with just one or two screens. You had a strip mall that had like 8 screens, but they were like the size of TV sets. Now, I mean, you got TV sets bigger than some of these screens. They were like going into a living room with about 50 seats, and you were right on top of the screen.
Yeah.
But you could, when I was in high school in the early '70s, I could go see a movie every night and see a different movie.
Well, yeah.
They needed the indie folks to fill these screens up.
Yeah.
And some great gems out there people never heard of. But that's when you got movies like Billy Jack and stuff that made millions because they just.
Well, yeah, and he did his own booking.
But that's way before '75.
So
Not that we would do anything illegal.
No.
But they didn't have it down back then,
Yeah.
how to run one of those. So
Right.
basically, if you timed it right, you
Yeah.
could go out of one right into the next one.
Absolutely.
And I think I saw 7 movies one.
Oh, easily, you could do it on a Saturday.
Yeah, and they were like 3 hours and change each.
And if
Like
you're-
Godfather 2, that kind of.
And if you're familiar with movie Matinee, which is one of my all-time favorite movies, they've got a line in there that reminded me so much of that where John Goodman says, you put all these screens together and make the walls thin and you can hear that movie when you're watching this one, and that's exactly how it
Oh,
was.
yeah,
You could
true.
hear every movie around you.
Especially with Sensorama.
Sensorama.
Oh my gosh.
Would shake the whole building.
Yeah, we heard it first. We
Absolutely.
heard Earthquake before we
These
saw
were
it.
fun times.
Yeah. Oh,
And movies were only like $2. I mean, you could go to the movies and get popcorn and drink for like $3.50. So you could afford to go every day if you wanted to.
Yep.
So the reason I asked the when it showed up in in '74 is because of the impact it made.
Yeah.
So how, because the turnaround, filmmaking, it can be, months on end, years on end. But you're saying that you think it really that quick of an impact.
Absolutely.
And it made money right off the bat. Because I was always under the impression Texas Chainsaw was kind of a slow burn, but you're saying in terms of box office was a slow burn.
And yes, but word of mouth, that was
It's huge.
Yeah, you were told, you gotta see it, you might go insane, but you gotta see it.
They had one TV commercial, but it didn't run a lot.
Right.
But it had the scene of Leatherface slamming the door.
That
I think it was
door.
like a 30-second, and you saw it just enough where you go,
And that door is, you were talking about at the Volutin panel, the bus.
Yes.
Right. That door with me, I have goosebumps now just thinking about just the ferocity of him slamming that door, and it's like, nothing good is going to happen. You can't imagine what it is, and you don't have to.
You do not want to be on the wrong side of that door.
Exactly.
Whatever's going on.
Yeah.
well, and the beauty of that film is they don't really show you. This film is not
Right.
that bloody.
No, it's
You know,
not,
and-
not bloody at
you
all.
really don't.
And Hooper,
Everything is left to your imagination.
but
It makes
amazingly,
you feel scared.
Hooper finally admitted in the audio commentary that he wasn't actually trying to be particularly subtle. He was just trying to get a PG rating.
That's right.
And that was not going to happen. But
No.
that was back when they started rating movies R for general tone.
Well, what you ended up with, I think maybe last year's, at last year's first panel, I think I had about 35 movies on there. And I'm also pretty sure the list was complete. I finally stopped here we go. I finally stopped the list because
How many do you have on there?
70.
70.
And again, I clearly remember, just,
And he even talks about everything else.
Not even necessarily getting into the foreign stuff, just in the United States, 75 was a very transformative year, not just for the independents, but also for the studios. It was
Yes.
the beginning
Oh,
of
yeah,
the
absolutely.
quote-unquote new Hollywood.
Yeah, Jim said it starts the death knell of the new Hollywood in a way, because it's sort of because of Jaws, the massive release of that, the mini screens and turning it into we can make movies, we can make money here in the summer. They didn't realize Hollywood studio guys were thinking, they were thinking about Oscar-based movies near the end of the year. But all the important films are, people are indoors. They don't want to stay outdoors.
Exactly.
They want to stay outdoors and water ski and do all this stuff. They don't want to go inside and watch a movie during the summer. Then all of a sudden, Jaws just makes tons and tons of money, and so the whole game changed. And then Star Wars comes along 2 years later, and then it's all that really put the death
That was
knell.
sort of the end of the ending.
And then we get to then they find directors are put in the back seat after.
But the beauty of Jaws was that Spielberg
Yeah.
shot it like an indie film.
Oh well, yeah.
It had an indie feel to it, even though it was studio.
No, and George Lucas and Spielberg were not.
Yeah.
They didn't want to into Hollywood.
No.
They just this is a movie they loved, and they would have done
That's
different
right.
things, and they were it was not like, oh, we're gonna put it into all the the crazy Scorsese and Coppola and the new Wanda and things like that.
I mean, the lesson, if New Hollywood had no other lesson, is that, and we're probably going to be talking about this on the blank check panel later on, is that a lot of creatives work best with a certain measure of restraint. I would say everybody needs a guy to say, dude. Wouldn't it be cool? No, it would not be cool if dude. But dude, really,
Yeah.
dude. I mean, you give George Lucas $10 million and Marshall Lucas and Brian De Palma and John Dykstra, and he comes back with Star Wars. George Lucas throws $150 million of his own money and gets the Phantom Menace. You do the math.
Yeah,
Just two words, think Heaven's Gate.
Yeah.
Which bankrupted an entire.
And that's a whole other panel.
And
That's another panel, but no, that's one.
Well,
So let's get back to your list.
What you got was, in 75, you got Argento starting
Oh,
with
yep.
Deep Red.
Cool.
Not quite starting, but reaching his fullness.
Okay, yeah.
Yep.
Dario becoming Dario.
There you
Yes,
go.
You're absolutely right. But it even went to television because you got movies like Trilogy of Terror,
Yeah.
which was a TV movie that and scared a bunch of people with a doll.
Absolutely, yeah.
And not a particularly attractive, this isn't talking Tina, this is a Zulu doll.
Zulu fetish doll.
And it's just terrifying. Cronenberg had Shivers.
That's right.
And at least in my opinion, a movie that never gets its due, which is L.Q. Jones' A Boy and His Dog.
Oh, absolutely.
Written by Harlan Ellison.
Great.
And,
Well, based on the story by Harlan.
well, yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking that I didn't see that maybe once he got a cult reputation pretty quickly, right?
Yeah, almost.
And I think, then there was, back then, the theater would do kind of program, midnight movies, and do different things that doesn't seem to happen as much anymore, unless it's the art house. I saw that much later, but that was 75.
Yeah. And I
It caught the college circuit too, that's
Yeah.
one
Oh,
that, I saw it in the student union, they picked it up the very next year and ran it.
I was in college, I was in college from 77 to 81, and they would, the 60 millimeter rental companies were quick, they would have it. We have complaints about the turnaround from a theater to a DVD, how quick it is.
Right.
It was really quick with 60 millimeter, because they would, we would show, films that were in the theater just a few months before on the campus. But then you had an entire library to pick from, and then the campus would do some really interesting programming.
Yep.
Go ahead, what else you got?
No, it just opened the door. Stepford Wives was jarring and allowed also Dick Smith to make large breasts. Which I would have taken that assignment, and done it more cheaply than Dick could have, so. Anyhow.
Be careful.
No, I am. So anyway, that's the kind of talent that was out there that was allowed probably a little more leeway than would have if not for Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because it's a horror movie. Okay, we'll do it. Make ours. So.
Real quick, just interject. It's gonna. I don't know what the rollout or the circulation or where it's going to eventually end up. There's a documentary out, brand new, called Chain Reaction, and it's a documentary.
Yeah, they're doing a Fathom event later this month where they're going to show it for the first time.
I got to see it with the director up at the Bloomington. It's really interesting, but it talks about the impact that this movie has here. If you're really interested in that, you should check that out.
And there's been documentaries before on it that, were not bad at all. I mean,
this is more of an artsy. This is directed
Right.
as kind of artsy documentaries.
yeah, it's not going to be Texas Chainsaw Family Portrait,
Yeah, or
which
the
is
making.
excellent.
It's more of a impact and how you.
Right. What it did to you.
Yes.
I've not seen this new one, but it seems that the director's approach is something that I think is admirable, because Texas Chainsaw really kind of was shot in frames for a lot, with an artistic eye. I mean, there are a number of shots in that movie that are frameable, hangable on your wall, that have absolutely nothing to do with violence, and are just beautiful.
I've said that about Black Cat, about Son of Frankenstein. I mean, through the ages, what happens is you get these movies every now and then where almost if you stop it, if you still it, it looks like a photographer took a still picture from it. And you get that in almost every frame, which is, you would think logically, damn near impossible, but it's true. Their artwork is just so beautiful. And the funny thing is with Chainsaw, and I know this isn't a 74, but it did frame 75. The thing about Chainsaw is it looks like one of the family shot it. I mean, the camera is so erratic, and so you keep hoping, no, look away from that shot. I don't need to see that angle. And so it does look like a family member that you don't just get to meet, shot the movie.
You will believe a camera can sweat.
Yes, and also an incredible narrator,
John Larroquette.
John Larroquette, who did it for Weed, which, seriously, who wouldn't?
And of course, they brought him back for the international version of Life Force and the 2001 or 2010, whatever. The 2001 Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake as well, which is a nice sort of through Monty.
Yeah, I wish he had been through prior to the 2010, but anyway.
Hey,
But
great trailer.
yeah, it certainly got me to sit through it, so, but anyway, it's just one of those deals where Larroquette had the kind of voice that most people left the theater going, this happened. And when you say, actually it didn't, it's not based on any kind of real story, it's based on a bizarre concept and a dean and the whole blah, blah, blah. But it also inspired 3 on a Meat Hook, so let's be honest,
That's true.
They didn't take it verbatim. Yet there are people who walk out and say, no, it really happened because the guy said so. And you're like, what's wrong?
Yes, but those people are extraordinarily gullible. Let's just not worry about
Well,
them.
yeah.
Surely they won't have any effect on the rest of, I'm sorry.
Yeah, right, I know.
Extremely gullible,
Say.
yeah, we'll be just fine.
Well, these guys are geniuses in their marketing, because even I fell for the fact that just because a film opens up saying these are true people, they're not actors and stuff, doesn't make it true. That's part of the show.
Right.
And it
Yeah,
still
I mean,
goes on today,
perfect
especially
example.
with found footage films and stuff like that. And it's like I had to train myself as, no, just because he said it, it doesn't make it real. That's just part of the experience. And they did that with, it was as close to Ed Gein's story. The only thing close about it was, I think, from Bolton, Texas. That's it. That's about as close as it gets. They killed people and he was a little bit of a cannibal. And that's very loosely based.
Anything else on your list that sticks out to you?
Just the fact that you also got, for your money, things like the giant spider invasion, things like that, which were still very much a part of the early 70s vibe. So it's interesting that a big film will come along the year before and change everything except for the stuff it doesn't touch.
Well, that was a small regional thing, it's like, they know.
But it's so great.
But the drive-ins, that's where I saw it. That was on my list, because I figured nobody's going to talk about this movie, but I should have known.
Sorry, buddy.
That's okay.
Anyway.
Because we're of the same generation.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we were probably both sitting in a drive-in watching that one and eating it up. Who can not like a film that shows you a Volkswagen with legs pretending to be a giant spider? This was quality entertainment back then.
And this, my friends, is art.
And Barbara Hale and Steve Brody rolling down a hill because they're too old to do the stunt work. They're too cheap, and the project's too cheap to hire stunt people.
And Barbara Hale, you just sit there and because I mean she's a lovely woman and all, but you just sit there and you go, that's your leading guy? Seriously?
Yeah.
So anyway, enough of that.
Yeah.
But please, I've taken over.
Jim,
No, I was going to say, well, I mean, my kicker was going to be this great spider invasion. I remember going at one that stands out in 75, from the obvious, Jaws. I'll mention that one first because it had such an impact, not only on me. I was a rare monster kid amongst my circle of friends in college. And I remember they came out that summer. I was right there opening weekend. So when I went back to school in August, The first thing the guy said was, did you go see that shark movie? I bet you went and said, they didn't see it. They weren't into monster movies. I said, of course I saw it. You know, along with millions of other people. But that film had such an impact, that spring break, that following spring, we all went down to Atlantic City Beach for spring break. And at one of the days we were out there on the beach, there was this mass panic. And people, and literally, it was like something I'd seen out of the movie. The scene was all flooding in, and all of a sudden, except we didn't have a kid with a fake dorsal fin or whatever, but what's going on? We couldn't figure out what's going on. And then we looked and we saw the dorsal fins. Like, oh my God. But the guy says, no, that's dolphins. But everybody was panicking because that was the impact that movie had. So that's one of my major remembrances of '75. I was a junior in college. I'm lucky I even remembered that, the history I had in college. But there was a little film that I saw that summer also that wasn't Jaws, because at this time most of them were movies every week.
Yeah.
Just about every week. Little known film that had a couple of actors in there that I'd seen in another film in 1972, and I really liked them. And I only went because they were in it, and I recognized the names of these two actors. I'll tell you the name. About a guy that, it was based on a true story about a guy who robbed a bank so he could pay for a sex change operation for his boyfriend, called Dog Day Afternoon. I had no idea what this film was about. I just knew it had a guy named Al Pacino in it and John Cazale. And absolutely blew my mind. It was one of the best films I saw of that.
City Lumet in fine form.
Yes, what incredible. And Chris Sarandon, one of his early films. Playing one of the gutsiest roles I'd ever seen in my life. I think it was amazing.
Chris gets tagged for a lot of monster shows.
He does.
Friday night.
He does.
And twice I've been in a show where he's been at, and I forget so much. I want to talk to another film he did with later with Richard Lester called Cuba. He's in that.
Oh, Cuba's an excellent.
And he's in
Would you like
The other, I was going to say.
solid?
What's that?
Don't.
Oh, he was one of them.
No. Don't bring up the Sentinel.
Oh, well, no,
He said he almost quit show business.
Yeah, that's.
Well, after I said, I would talk about everything but the fake reasons he's been
Please
booked
don't,
for.
because he will shut you down immediately.
Yeah.
But so Dog Day Afternoon.
So anyway, there's one more 75 that sticks out. So I didn't write my list because
No, that's fine.
No, there was really I wanted to pick the
I-
ones that emotionally affected me the most.
Yeah.
And the one that, like I said, I was the monster kid in my gang, and rarely I could pull them to come see a sci-fi or whatever. This you might call a little bit futuristic film, but it caught my dorm by surprise when it came out in the theaters. And it was called Rollerball. And that was the hottest ticket among my crowd of friends in college when that came out. And it just, it was one of the best action films up until that point I'd ever seen.
And of course,
And I still love it. I watched it just a few weeks ago, and it still holds up.
Yeah.
and what you guys,
That's the film
When
I think it's actually gotten better with age.
Surprisingly,
Yeah.
it's gotten
Yeah.
better because when you look at the way their society was presented in that movie, you've got a society where there's no government.
Well, look at
No
the government-
ceases
the government-
to exist.
the governments are the
You've got corporations and all the money people run the whole show, and they get away with it because they take care of everybody. So it's like, trust us.
Yeah, well, they take care of you, but they also
We'll take care
tell you
of
what
you,
to do.
and it's like the biggest con in the world, and they use this rollerball game as a way to control the masses.
How do we spell that
Gee,
word?
does that sound familiar to anybody of some things that might be sort of loosely going on nowadays? I had not seen rollerball in about 20 years, when I watched it about a month ago, and I was like, oh,
would you guys agree, like,
Today.
concerning Rollerball, it's also that time period between 2001 and Star Wars, where, the people that were into the genre, we would just, rush to those because we were so hungry, and it seemed like, they hadn't started, the Hollywood hadn't shifted really yet to say, oh, this is a box up of bonanza if we do all these.
Well, there's another one that read that too, that came out in the early 70s.
Well, there's a bunch. I mean,
No, it's called Silent Running, but
Yeah.
that's like a classic cult sci-fi, that also set the table for what was yet to come.
Yeah, well, yeah, but that's a whole other topic.
No, but I mean, we're talking about getting that.
But just,
feeder.
Logan's trying to get, there's a lot of things between those. Anyway.
No, but we were hungry for that.
Yeah,
stuff.
that's right. So what you said, the
So I
rollerball.
was just trying to make your
Yeah,
point
rollerball
that
fed that.
anytime, anything that seemed
Yeah.
to be like
Smack
that.
of science fiction.
Yeah, we were there.
Or horror or
Yeah,
fantasy.
we were
It's
there.
like, okay, we gotta see it.
Yeah, because once Star Wars came out,
And the
then
floodgates.
That was a whole new ballgame.
Yeah.
Pretty much killed thinky science fiction.
What's that?
They pretty much killed thinky science fiction.
Well, that's, yeah.
Well, yeah.
Until, I mean, you didn't really get back to
Yeah.
that kind of science
No, but
fiction
you got,
until the
you
90s.
got sci-fi
And
like
that's
Star
true.
Trek.
In the 90s, when Gagnet came out, it felt like, holy crap, it's thinking science fiction again. This is actually about way more than just, this is taking place in the future.
Yeah.
Quasi-dystopian
True,
stuff in
yeah.
particular.
So I was, I spent a night just going through, looking at all, and trying to figure out this list and what could come up in it. And I separated, I kind of came up with the category, like, my personal favorites, everything else special, no. Misfits, I have a category for misfits, that's an interesting, and I had guilty pleasures, even though I actually really, I think fun guilty pleasures for 65, you want to come back tomorrow for that. But, I'm just going to rattle this off real quick, and we can come back and go, we can jump around, obviously, we're going to be jumping around the whole time. My personal favorites, real quick, are Barry Lyndon of that year. These are 75. Barry Lyndon, Great Wall of Pepper, Hard Times with Walter Hill, Charlie Bronson, Jaws, of course, The Man with Bikini,
Oh, yeah.
Monty Python, The Holy Grail, 3 Days in the Condor.
Holy Grail was 74.
But I think the money. Yeah, that's why yeah.
That's the money list.
The Moose was.
Oh, it was April in America. Yeah, according to this, to my homework, but yeah, you're right. It probably came out in England.
Remember, we're still in the 70s when films were rolled out.
Yeah, that's the tricky thing about, especially in the 70s. You couldn't. It's not an easy game if you were trying to really be strict about this. And then the Win the Line. I love the Win the Line. In fact, I have this. I make up these little mini lists of myself and Man of King, Win the Line, and Robin and Mary. It's Sean Connery's costume trilogy. It's costume adventure trilogy. I think
I once linked those 3 Connery films to the 3 science fiction films that Heston did in the early 70s, and went, these are late period classics from these men, and the only reason any of these films got made was because of them.
And they're so good. I mean, because Connery made some kind of dubious choices on this material, or he outright didn't do something that we all should have. Oh, please, Sean, why did you do that? But those 3, you can be very proud of Sean. They were done well. They were mounted well, and they're just so wonderful. When the line,
it took Houston like 2 decades to get.
he was going to do it.
Yeah.
Supposed to be Bogart and Clark.
Yeah, it took him forever to get that.
And I think there's even another team I forgot. He went through a couple of permutations before he got.
I mean, one of the interesting fallouts from the Win the Line, of course, is apparently Connery liked Milius so much that he got him to do a rewrite on his dialogue in literally every movie that he made afterwards where he would get in touch with him.
And we all know about Milius doing the uncredited writing of Jaws, if you know your Jaws history. So Milius
A lot of those guys knew each other.
Yeah, and of course that's the new Hollywood aspect, and we talk about how Star Wars is going to kill off since the start. Star Wars and Rocky and the Reagan and all the positive stuff and all the downers of the new Hollywood films. But Milius was part of that. But the Win the Line is just a throwback to good old schoolboy adventure.
It's Blood and Thunder stuff.
Yeah.
So is Man Who Would Be King.
Yeah, and
I love that.
well, Houston's older than that. He is an interesting person to peg down in terms of a through line with him. So those are my favorites. Then I have a bunch of other notes.
can I just throw out a really uncomfortable thought?
Okay.
Zardoz
No, but
as a Connery costume movie.
Absolutely love the film. I've always loved the film, and
Me
I'm
too.
glad that the attitude is generally changing on it. But
Let's talk the costume. It's Vampirella.
Yeah, really.
They come back for us.
Nothing to do with 175 movies, but you have to throw that in.
I had to throw that in because at 3 o'clock in the morning, when you think of it again, you will forever hate me.
Which is when you think of Zardoz. So
Exactly. Yeah.
Pretty much.
I don't want anybody to use the word apologist, but I'm a Zardoz apologist.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, we showed it,
Well,
so we're way off track, we're gonna be way off track here, but I have to tell the story. So, the teacher at, one of the campuses in my college in my town brings in Zardoz. He's gonna bring it in for the Friday night, open to public, students can come for extra credit, and he teaches an intro to film class.
Did they pass out weed at the door?
So I go, cool, this would be great, because he's a really good discussion leader, because he's one of these academics that can pick up subtexts at the drop of a hat when he sees a film the first time. And I said, I gotta watch it half a dozen times before I start getting deep in analyzing it. So anyway, I'm like, oh, this would be great, this is gonna be good, we're gonna be on a widescreen, big screen, and we're gonna talk about it afterwards, blah, blah, blah. And, but then a film of his, he had booked the class and dropped out. So he said, yeah, I'm gonna show it in the class for the students. Like, oh my God, don't do that, don't, because if you know the students that are, especially the ones that are taking the intro to the film class, they're just taking for their general elective. They're not film people, they're just taking it, and today's, I don't want to be the old man railing on in a snowstorm here, but they're going to be hard, but they're going to lynch you, they're going to tar and feather you, this is going to be a disaster. So Friday night comes along, and I go, and of course, yeah, you said the reaction was pretty crazy in the class, but 2 kids showed up, and then you got extra credit to do, but they came, and they had drawn in the mustaches and the little goatees of Berlin at the very beginning of it. If you guys seen Zardoz, it opens up and the guy's talking with that on there. I go, oh my God, there's hope out, there's hope for civilization. They loved it, they got into it, and they actually went, did a little cosplay for it to come in that night.
Zardoz is an indication that 20th Century Fox was looking for something like a midnight movie department for a while. In fact, they had Phantom of the Paradise in '74, which unfortunately failed to particularly hit, but then they got, and we flirted with it a little bit, it's worth talking about, the Rocky Horror Picture.
Oh, that's 75. That's right.
Yeah, but it took Rocky Horrors a few years before they had the midnight stuff.
The original...
I remember being in a movie theater with only about 3 people in it in '75, and nobody understood what that was.
Yeah, you were one of the few people who saw it.
It had a regular release and was...
Because I just saw anything.
Then they noticed that it was getting kind of the same sort of audience reaction that the stage play had previously. So they had this idea of, making like a thing of it.
Yeah.
And thus the modern midnight movie as we know.
Right, I mean, but that was like, that was much later in the '70s.
It took
word
a while.
started getting out that they were doing this sort of thing, and other theaters started picking up on it.
Well, I think a lot of people may have run across the fact that those types of things existed and the movie existed was because of the scene in Fame, for God's sake.
Yes, yeah, no,
Which is
that was
1980.
huge.
Oh, yeah.
It had already had a fair amount of fallout, even by a year or 2 later. I mean, to the point where, when 20th Century Fox created its International Classics division, which, as far as anybody can tell, pretty much only ever released the U.S. version of Suspiria. That was intended to be specifically a unit devoted specifically to midnight movies.
Yeah.
Speaking of cult movies, midnight movies and all that stuff, I should point out, Mr. Jack Hill, the director, is here this weekend. Switchblade Sisters is a 1975
Sisters.
Also,
Very underrated.
so if you want to go talk to Switchblade Sisters with Jack, the guy who directed it, he's here. Let me throw out these misfits. See what you think. If you want to hear them, you might disagree with this. At Long Last Love, Peter Bogdanovich.
I told myself that one day I will watch that film, but I haven't managed to do
Well,
it anymore.
and the reason I say misfits is that these are, it's Peter Bogdanovich. I mean, these are of interest. And a lot of times, a lot of you guys know, you find a director you like, or you find, or something, or an actor, or whatever, and you follow them along, and you're going to put up with like some of the missteps, but the missteps, and you can see what they were going for, and every time you watch, you go, oh, I wish you could. Anyway, so that's what these misfits are. Now or they get rehabilitated. They are misfits originally, but then they get a reputation, and now they're considered legit or respectable, or what do you want to call it, rehabilitated. And I'll put this out, see if anybody, because I'm not, I don't know, I think I've still got to watch the whole thing. I got two, 3 different copies of it now. The Day of the Locust. Anybody?
It's a hard watch.
It's a hard watch.
Yeah, it's a hard watch.
That's why I missed it.
I'm aware, I've never actually seen it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not bad, but
Yeah, you want some watch.
don't watch it tired. Don't
Okay,
watch
yeah.
it tired or in a bad mood. You gotta really be
Yeah,
prepared.
well, see, then that's where you're in the minority, well, in terms of the hoity-toity critics,
Correct.
shampoo is a beloved one.
Yeah.
Here's a good hand grenade. Doc Savage, the Men of Bronze.
Whoa!
Anybody? Bueller,
To be in the editing room to fix that damn film.
You got that right.
I didn't know, I was shocked when that was in the 75 release. I thought, because it hasn't, let's be candy. And I thought it was more closer to Batman 66, and I'm like, that's 1975 when they did this.
No,
That's
that's
probably one of those
wrong.
ones, George Powell is still alive?
Yeah, it's hard to believe.
Let's just say it's not the same George Powell from the 1960s.
Yeah.
Here's another interesting one. Again, people know, but it's a misfit of the film, I think, The Fortune. Anybody?
Oh, I've still never seen that.
You got Mike Nichols.
One of those, yeah. that just-
You got The Graduate. He's got Virginia Woolf under his belt. He's got The
What the hell, the
Graduate.
cast?
And then you got Jack Nicholson and Warren Beatty.
Yeah.
It should have been better.
What
It
could
just
go wrong?
didn't
Was
work.
Lucky Lady 75 or 76?
Lucky Lady is 75. I didn't even put that as a misfit even.
Well, I mean, that I can say that's interesting in that it was such a complete disaster.
Yes.
Amongst other things, one of the reasons why the budget for Star Wars was so small.
Do you think Lucky Lady will ever get rehabilitated?
I mean, it's an interesting movie.
It's Stanley Donen, isn't it?
It was Stanley Donen, of course, Gene Hackman, Burt Reynolds during that brief period where Burt Reynolds was the coolest man on the planet.
Right.
Liza Minnelli, but I mean, the premise, you have these, 3, con artists basically who, are kind of, chilling in hotel rooms having threesomes. And they had a PG rating.
Wait, so Burt Reynolds had 2 massive duds in 75?
I guess so.
Long Last Love as well?
Yeah.
The fact that supposedly Burt Reynolds dances in that film is what's kept me away.
Okay, how about this one, guys? French Connection 2. Any fans?
What is it?
French Connection 2.
That's a hard watch, too.
Not actually
That's-
pleasant.
French Connection 2. Gene Hackman.
Actually, I mean, it is
Frankenheimer, but
it
that's-
is so radically different from the first film. But
Right.
I think it's
so
first of all,
I
Hackman
was
is
disappointed when I
it's
first
dour,
saw it.
it's dark, but
I think
Hackman
everybody was
is
like that.
Hackman
Yeah, no, I
is
do.
amazing in the film.
Yeah, it was a great performance by Hackman. That's why I call it a misfit. I think, first of all, I think like Jim just said, that if we all went in with expectations of what a French Connection film should be.
Yeah, what are they going to do this time?
Yeah.
That was something that's totally a lot more like 3 Days at the Condor or The Amateur, all of those really like late Cold War
Yeah.
paranoid thrillers.
Yeah.
Even if, it still has the internationalist thing, but yeah, somehow it manages to share a tone with that.
I mean,
Yeah, there was just something about the feel of that movie that wasn't right.
I respect what they did, which is in the first film, Gene Hackman's cop character he's in his element and he is completely in control. Once
Yes.
he's got a handle on things, he's gonna win.
Yeah.
And in the second film, he's the fish out of water, and he screwed everything up to the point of being literally at their mercy for weeks on end.
Yeah.
And it's
It just had such a bizarre feeling to it.
I just don't see that as a necessarily a bad thing.
I don't either.
It's just not
It's just
what anyone expected.
What expected, that was, I think,
I think it's one of
it's
those preconceived notion that
Yeah.
killed that film.
I think it's one of those films that over the years, it gets another look and your expectations are out of the way and it gets rehabilitated somewhat and say, oh, this is a pretty decent film. And, and Frankenheimer's career at this point it starts to get spotty. And so I think if you guys haven't seen it, you might want to check it out. It's not that bad.
Yeah, I think that's a legitimate.
Killer Elite. Sam
Oh, I
Peckinpah.
love that movie.
You love it?
It's lesser Peckinpah, but it's
Really?
well worth seeing.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Why do you love Killer Elite, Richard?
I just,
The cast.
Well, yeah.
First of all, the cast. Second of all, what they do to the cast, which is, you know, when you shoot somebody in the knees,
That was a shock when I saw
to
the
slow
theater.
them down, that will do it.
Yeah.
So, no, I love that part of it.
Oh, that beginning was great.
I
Yeah.
had
And those guys ripping in the car.
Well, just the workaday world
Yes.
of assassins, this is their life. I mean, the dialogue between them, I don't remember who wrote it.
Philippa, I think, isn't it?
Was it Jonas?
Or was it?
May have been.
I think
It
it's.
might have been.
On basis of a book.
May have been.
Based on the book.
It's the first place, watching that film was the first place I heard the whole, proper planning prevents piss poor performance. And it's two assassins talking to each other, having just completed a job, and, it's one of those things where you're just like, oh, no, this is just their business. These aren't psychopaths, these are people who have a certain skill, this is how they make their living, that's how they look at it,
Absolutely.
How about anybody, we could have Tommy out.
I like Tom.
Well, yeah, and Mahler was out in '74, but in February in the USA. So you were getting a double dosage of Kim Russell that year.
Yeah.
So that's.
Randy Mahler.
And I put Mahler in the Misfits because I still haven't seen it. Is it? Where does it stand?
But that's because I still haven't seen it either, which is a weird blind spot because I love Ken Russell. It's just a lot of it's, especially for around that time, even amongst Russell's composer biographies, it kind of gets swamped in the space between the music lovers and listomania.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's one I didn't really check out. A nice little film called Mandingo.
Yeah. That's an acquired taste.
There's
Something that manages to be controversial in 1975.
Yeah, that's a trick right
Is
there.
a rare obvious right there.
and the fact, but there's defenders of that film. I think.
Well,
Well,
I don't know whether we ought to condemn the filmmakers or just kind of pat them on their head and go, man, the honest.
I think Quentin. Don't you think Quentin took a page
Points
out of
for
that?
good spot.
Yeah, I think Django Unchained takes a little bit of that Mandingo.
Oh, it does.
Yeah. Okay, you brought up Billy Jack earlier in the panel.
Oh, yeah.
Tom Laughlin's The Master Gunfighter.
Yeah, that we could probably pass on.
That's almost, even people who talk about Tom Laughlin don't talk about it.
Yeah, no, I mean, Tom.
I certainly remember it being in the theater. I didn't go see it, and I typically would go see a lot of
Tom, God love him, just sort of went off the deep end when he couldn't make, I mean, his sequel to Billy Jack was okay, but then he pumped everything he had into the third one. To make his statement, and it was just a total disaster.
So imagine a total
He got conspiratorial and sort of Washington.
And I hope
Go off the edge, so.
And I hope you guys are the quiet side over here. I hope you don't. I hope we're not going too deep diving and not getting another.
If you're making us quiet just for this conversation, I apologize.
Tom Laughlin was kind of in the deep end and never actually emerged from it.
Because we're throwing out titles and names and not getting any descriptions. So I hope
The
you.
Billy Jack movies were about a guy who was attempting to promote peace by beating the ever-loving shit out of everyone.
But the problem was he had, he makes the terrible and, he messed it up, he couldn't.
Okay,
move on that.
anyway, Master Gunfighter was a Western he did after Billy Jackson says, trying something different, it didn't really work. Anybody knowledgeable, this is one I need to get caught up to, Peeper?
Michael Caine movie.
Yes.
Not bad, but minor.
No, I'm not saying that.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, but it's got an interesting reputation, so I want to put it on the list this time. Rosebud. Otto Preminger, right?
Not Otto Preminger's finest hour.
Yeah, well, Preminger's way on this old man phase.
That was Preminger down for the count.
Yeah, so,
Although, proving once again, it is never a good idea to make the title of your movie a reference to another movie.
it's basically a kidnap movie, isn't it?
It's basically, kidnap on the high seas.
With an interesting cast in it, but, as usual with Preminger, but.
It makes you say, stay Mr. Freeze.
And
That's what I was thinking, he should have.
And for those out there, that Preminger, Quentin Tarantino's been a big deal about, I don't want to make an old man movie. And so, and,
No, he needs to make an old man movie and shut the hell up.
yeah, exactly. Well, that's a whole other thing. And, but Premature, there's an example of all these older aging directors, and there's a case to watch them and be interested in them, but
I
there's...
think John Huston with Phobia before he recovered with like Fritzy's Honor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's not only that, it's like Tarantino, I mean, God love him, I understand being locked into the vision of what older directors were doing.
He wants
in the
to-
70s.
he wants to
Where they
really
were
come on.
flailing around, attempting to catch up with the new Hollywood, with the younger guys who were doing something really innovative and interesting. But he's standing here in the 21st century talking about an old man movie, and I'm staring at Martin Scorsese going, are you not paying attention to this man? This is the same guy, the guy who made Goodfellas and Taxi Driver made The Wolf of Wall Street. This century. Think, what is an old man movie?
Paul Schrader's back in a row, I think, right now.
Yeah, Paul Schrader.
This is another example. But I mean, Premature always liked the high society sleaze anyway.
Yeah, right.
When it works, you get Laura. When
Yeah.
it doesn't work, you get Rose.
No, yeah. Here's one I'll be talking about later today, Royal Flashes 75.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's a guilty favorite, absolutely.
Completely unknown by the vast majority of people.
Yeah,
Yet I-
Well, you had to have read the books.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
books, I turned on to the books from a college.
Yeah,
mind,
for the uninitiated.
I couldn't wait to see that movie when it came out, because I loved the books.
For the uninitiated, there's a series of phenomenally humorous historical novels, all fiction, but built stringently around the historical events, following a character
Called
that
Royal- yeah,
is a
Royal-
cad,
Royal
Flashman.
Flashman.
Yeah.
Flashman.
And he stole his character from Tom Brown's School Days. He was this bully
Yeah,
that
yeah.
Tom Brown dealt with in his youth. And this series of novels, well worth reading.
Oh, the books
Stinking
are
one.
outstanding.
Follows this bully character as he cowers his way through life. He's got dysentery and is shitting himself.
He survives the charge of the Light Brigade.
Yeah, during the charge of the Light Brigades, he survives it because he's a freaking coward. And I mean, it's just insane. And there have been each one of those books. As you're reading them, you can realize this would be a great film, and they've only ever managed to mount one of them. And it was in 1975 by the same George MacDonald Fraser is the man who wrote the novels, and he had written the screenplays for Richard Lester's Three and the Four Musketeers. And so they had a working relationship, so they just went ahead and made that film. And
they cast, I love Malcolm McDowell being cast as, when I heard that, I thought.
but there's a good argument. Alan Bates is in the film as well, playing a different character.
Yes.
The argument has always been that if Alan Bates had played Flashman, it might have come off.
I could have seen that too, yeah.
But at the same time, it is a great film. It's a good introduction.
It is.
Yeah,
It
it's-
is. I was not that disappointed. Why? Because I'm a rabid fan of the books. I mean, everyone I saw, I said, you've got to read this series of books.
Yeah, it's a hard sell to people. He's like, it's historically accurate, but also incredibly funny.
Yeah, I mean, the historical novels, I think they coined the term historical novels because they were, a nonfiction character in historical times.
Speaking of
Okay,
Malcolm
moving on.
McDowell, is Unlucky Man 75 or 76?
I didn't come
I
across my
believe it's
radar.
76.
Yeah.
Here's one. Here's a film that debuted in Paris in November, and I haven't put it on here, even though it's Salo, or the 120 Days of Sodom.
Yeah, let's move on.
If you don't know anything about it, you've never seen it, just stay away. Unless you're just really diehard cinema or Pasolini fan, and even if you're a Pasolini fan,
And it's not that it's a bad film, it's that it is a film built to make you feel really bad.
You can be all the edgelord you want.
Yeah.
If you show people Salo without warning them what it is, you will lose your friends.
Absolutely.
If you're a fan of the Human Centipede, you might like this movie. So,
and I have down there, The Wild Party. It's a Merchant Ivory film. And it's about, I think, isn't it loosely based on the Betty Arbuckle party? I think
Yes,
that's
I
what
believe so.
Yeah.
I recall that.
I didn't think the movie was wild enough.
Yeah, one of my ideas for a future panel in this room would be, they're going to do a panel on Christmas movies. So I'm going to do a panel on Christmas films. Anyway,
Okay.
Can you actually sit through all of their freaking Indian movies?
No, I don't think so.
so, yeah.
Can you sit through Slaves of New York? I freaking dare you.
Hey, you know, it takes the, okay, so anyway, what are we doing?
Pretty much at time.
Oh, we're on time. So, yeah, sorry guys, we were all over the map here, and we didn't even talk about the iron distinction or Dolomite.
Dolomite.
Richard Drivers and inserts. Nashville, of course, is a film that you can't ignore. Gene Hackman and Night Moves, Alfred Pitt, and Willis
That's an underrated, well, Nashville's a.
and you know, and some of these we could talk a whole hour on. You know, Cuckoo's Nest, Shampoo. Snow White and Seven Doors got re-released in '75. Super Vixens. If you want to go buy a copy of this, Super Vixens. He had 2 out that year. I think maybe not 65. No, it's 65. He had 2 out.
Guilty Pleasures?
Yeah,
It
there you go.
it was a year where everybody was throwing money at anything that they possibly could, trying to see what stuck. You had the beginnings of the Canadian tax shelter system.
Yeah.
You had independents really starting to dig in, especially in the genres and marginal stuff, and you also saw a lot of internationalizing of, you know, lower prestige properties in comparison to foreign movies from
And the needed product.
They
That
needed
was there
product.
was a need for
More
product.
cinemas,
They were
more
still
stuff.
working with these multiplexes.
New Hollywood.
That had screens to fill.
New Hollywood film, Michael Ritchie, Smile. It's really overlooked.
Yeah, it's not bad.
It's pretty good. I like it. Sidney Pollack doing an interesting film called Yakuza with Robert Mitchum.
Intriguing.
Story of Del H. That's Truffaut. I'm pretty
That's
sure.
true.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. Oh, and we're starting to see the Australian New Wave. Picnic at Hanging Rocks is out in '75.
That's an excellent, yeah.
Right.
Underrated.
Speaking of something we might have should have talked about on the Luton panel.
Yeah, there you go. So anyway, guys, it's you know, it's fun to do this. You just pick a year, and of course you can go to Wikipedia and do that, but and then start diving in. And I hope we made sense on some of the training. Do you think so?
There was so
It makes no
much.
sense, it's
And it's
1975.
exactly like we like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Thank you so much for
Yeah,
coming.
and again, tomorrow we're going 10 years back, so.
Yeah.
There was a lot of 1965 as well.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Quite,
The
yeah.
fives are usually big years.
Yeah, yeah, so, anyway, thank you for stopping by.
Thank you. Appreciate you stopping in and putting up with all our rambles, because it was all over the map, as I knew it would be. Hey,
Do me a favor, hang for a minute.
Bob, can you take a picture of the 3 of us? Absolutely. Yeah, want to stand up and
After our professional photographer.
yes.
Oh, that's.
Yeah, that's fun.
Right there.
Okay. Cool.
All right.
Are you gonna crop it for me?
Yeah,